Welcome to Comic-Con 2021 Cosplay 101, The Spice of Life. Let me turn it over to Catherine Fisher to tell you what we're going to be talking about.
Hi, this is kind of a compilation of our kind of combo deal of our past cosplay presentations we've done at Comic-Con, which is Cosplay 101 and 102. We're just going to go over everything, fun over that you can talk about for cosplay because, as we all know, cosplay really is the spice of life.
Fabulous. Let's dive right into it, and we'll have each of our four panelists introduce themselves. So, Catherine, you go first.
I am Catherine Fisher. I've been making costumes since I was a little kid. I used to make clothing for my Barbies. I do have my degree in fashion design and production, even though that is not what I make a living at, which is fine. I still make costumes for fun and sometimes a little profit. Poison Ivy is one of my favorite characters, hence who I'm dressed tonight. That's in the picture, and I've done anything from regular costumes to things as complex as chainmail. So I'm always looking to expand my knowledge base and do new exciting costumes.
I am Bob Mogg. I go by the Iron Tailor in the costume circles, and I think I'm the only one here who isn't actually a real artist kind of person. I'm actually an engineer by training and got into this through historical costuming, Halloween contests, of course. A lot of us started there. And then I've slid into steampunk and Star Wars, and I'm still looking for that first Marvel costume. I'm still looking for that. But the unique thing I do is I do a lot of builds of gadgets and wonderful things, and then I write tutorials on how you can build them yourself. So if you go to my blog, theirontailor.blogspot.com, you'll find over 450 projects covering all sorts of different genres, eras, big projects, little projects, all laid out with pictures and instructions so you can build them yourself.
The tutorials are cool. I can attest to that.
Allison.
Hi, my name is Allison Fulster. I am living in San Diego. Most of my background is actually in art. I grew up doing a lot of drawing and illustrating. I actually went to school for illustration. I came out of school actually pursuing a career in design. Oddly enough, illustration's not as in demand as you'd think it is, but design certainly is. And I guess when I went down the design path, I needed some other kind of creative outlet, and somehow that kind of led me into costume making, which it all kind of interrelates in a lot of different ways. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's really interesting to leverage all of my visionary artistic skills, design and computer skills, technical skills, that all kind of combine to make really interesting and unique costumes. Usually I do this with my husband. You can see us in this photo here. He's not here this time, but we like to be just a creative duo, making a lot of fun stuff all the time.
Very cool. Super Dan, bring us home.
Hi, I am Dan Moyer, and as he mentioned, I often go by Super Dan in the cosplay circles. I am a graphic designer, went into school for a few years for it at San Diego State University. I definitely specialize in Superman suits. I usually wear anything from Clark Kent to Connor to Bizarro, or at least I'm working on Bizarro. So basically anything with the symbol of hope on it, I might try it out at some point. And I am a volunteer with a few charity groups, including the Sci-Fi Coalition and Kids Can Cosplay. Sci-Fi Coalition being stationed in San Diego, Kids Can Cosplay being stationed over in the LA area.
Great, okay. I can certainly attest that you've got a whole slate of very talented makers and artists here, so we're going to talk about everything we can think of, and hopefully you'll learn something new. So the first thing is always we want a costume because we want to. So I'm going to throw this out to each of you, and we're going to start with Allison. Allison, where do you get your inspiration?
So, you know, most of my costumes are actually just original costumes that I come up with. They're not based on anything. So because of that, creatively, I'll usually start with some kind of a piece, just one particular piece that I find interesting. Maybe it's a cool shape. It could really be anything. I guess as an example, you can see my chest piece here. I was gifted this skull, which unfortunately this is actually a real cat skull, and someone actually did give that a shot on the head. But no, there's nothing more post-apocalyptic than that. And in order to make this more beautiful, I wanted to kind of make a really interesting way to frame it. I really wanted to immortalize this skull. So I found a lot of just miscellaneous things. I've got a bracelet here I found at a store. This is, I think, from a game, like an old game when I was younger. It's just a clear red transparent lens, but it fit really nice over this gear. He's got like a bouncy monocle gear. It's really interesting, just you can just have an assortment of things and combine them together. It's really easy to just tie things together. You don't always have to use hardware or anything, but I like to use hardware. You really don't know how things are going to end up a lot of times when you take a creative approach. So trying to plan too much ahead of time can be really difficult. I have a very organic creative process where I just find things and they just happen to fit there. And this happens to have a hole in it, or I happen to be able to drill a hole in it and I need to finish it. So, I mean, inspiration really isn't limited to anything. You could have a piece of paper, a piece of trash. I know me and Bob like to collect a lot of junk, and you know, if the if you have an old remote that broke, maybe there's something good in there. You know, one man's junk is another man's treasure, and I've certainly found a lot of treasure in junk myself.
Fabulous, fabulous. I want to throw it to Dan because I know you do a lot of different Superman costumes, but I've been blown away by a lot of the ones that maybe aren't mainstream, that you know, not everyone's seen. So where do you get the inspiration for which looks you want to do?
So the looks that I get are typically from comics, actually. I go for comics that might not be as well known to the mainstream, or at least ones that aren't really cosplayed a lot. So, for example, I have Superboy, the one that you guys that was on that picture earlier. Let me go grab it.
Black red one, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Be the black and red one. This guy right here. Got this one entirely commissioned. And yeah, it definitely wasn't cheap, but it's very sturdy and I think it was well worth it. Let's see, I am working on a Bizarro cosplay right now. And in the past, I've also had a Superman cosplay that was that had a combination of handmade and store-bought. For example, with that one, this one has handmade pieces. This I made myself out of EVA foam. But typically I often buy pieces like this guy was from Etsy, the cape Catherine made, the suit itself also from Etsy, the belt I got here, it was from a creator called Batboy Customs over on Instagram. So I typically find pieces online and also get inspiration from that. It's like, oh, that's a cool looking bodysuit. What character kind of resembles that? Or which version of Superman? Or, oh, this belt looks really good. Which version of Superman can I use for that? So it's so basically comics, Instagram is a good inspiration. And let's see, what else did I put here? And photos of cosplay pieces. So yeah, that's basically my 2 cents.
Great, great. Catherine, you come up with the most amazing outfits. Where do you get your inspiration?
I like to get a lot of them from movies and comics, cartoons even. I like characters with red hair, so I don't have to wear a wig, even though I do have several red wigs for my for various Poison Ivy costumes. Sometimes I'll just see a fabric that I really like. Like this fabric behind me, I'm actually going to turn it into a an evening gown. It's going to be a poison ivy sequined evening gown, and then I'll get to wear my regular hair, and I'll have some rhinestones and everything, make it super fancy. Just whatever kind of catches my eye. But I also get a lot of cool inspiration from Instagram. I follow some different costumers on there who have just these really great ideas. Like I know Allison and I both follow her. It's a Kamui Cosplay, who does all the really cool foam armor, and she's incredible and does these tutorials. And so I'd like to do some new, armor pieces for some new characters. Some are original designs, some are going to be like recreations. So just kind of from everywhere, but movies and comics and Instagram are a lot of places where I just get my inspiration from. But anything kind of like Allison, I've like seen a wig at a Halloween store when it's half price, and I'm like, oh, that pink wig, I can totally make a costume around that, and then find the fabric to base it around that. So anything goes.
I always feel like I found my tribe when somebody says, I found this little piece and I made a whole costume around it. Because that's about a third of my builds are that way. I'll find something, a cute little toy that moves, but I don't care what it really looks like. There you go. So he wakes up, but to be able to turn him into something steampunk, he starts to look pretty sexy. Still moves, but I can wear him, much like Allison has her little, was that a beaver? We were talking about it earlier. It's very cool. But then you've got to engineer stuff like, how do you keep it on your shoulder so it doesn't go falling off and clunking down the hallway? And that gets into a little bit of work. And then, like Catherine said, that she has some outfits maybe she's only worn once, and I used to do that. Now I've gotten more into pulling those back out, refining them, adding to them. It becomes something that becomes like a real good presentation that you've done several times, and now you want to just oomph it up a little bit and keep going with it. So the last year has been tough without our conventions to go to, because truthfully, I get more inspiration from just walking around Comic-Con going, oh, look at that outfit, look at that outfit. And when you see a cosplayer that's in a gray outfit, march right up to him and go, you look great. And then be prepared to stand there for 30 minutes while they tell you every little thing about it, where they got things, how they built it. That's kind of why I like to share things on the blog, because it just gives people time at their leisure to go through and take ideas from it. And the best, absolute best flattery is when I see somebody who's knocked off one of my pieces. I think that's just fabulous. So excellent. Excellent stuff. Okay, I'm going to jump back to our presentation. Dan kicked it off a little bit about, well, some pieces he makes, some pieces he buys. Could be because maybe somebody has better skills. You can trade skills, you can do stuff. I'm going to throw this out and ask everybody for a good example of something that made more sense to buy and something that made more sense to make. I can see Catherine's thinking really hard, so I'm going to make her take the first one.
Wow. I make almost everything that I have. Like, I remember the first one I made angel wings. My boyfriend at the time, who's now my ex, he was like, you can just buy those wings for $50. And I said, yeah, but I can make them for 20. Why would I want to do that? Yeah, it took me forever to make them, but they were custom made for me, and I saved $30. And I always say, not all the time, but time I have, money I like to save. So I like to do the extra effort. But there are certain things, like I came up with some certain things. Like for some costumes, I'm working on an old school Catwoman costume, and she has these like blue leggings. And rather than make leggings, I found some on Amazon for $8. And I'm like, I'll buy those. Everything else will be made, but I'll make those. I'll buy those rather than make them. But for the most part, I do make most of my costumes, every piece. But there are certain components I will buy. But in my case, it's more the smaller components. That the bigger stuff I like to make.
Cool. Super Dan, you opened the topic. What's your dividing line between what you build and what you make?
So basically, the way I see it is, if I can basically, if I can afford to mess up on it, and if it's not too expensive to do over and over again, then I am happy to make it. But let's say for this emblem that's made out of urethane rubber, I'm just like, I don't have that kind of money or equipment to make a urethane rubber emblem. So I think it'd probably be easier if I just pay somebody who's had more experience working with it and then going on that point. So it's just going to really boil down to, can I afford to mess this up? And how will I feel if I mess it up? Like, will it be like, oh, okay, not a big deal. I messed it up. I can just make another one. Or if it's like, shoot, I spent all this money, put all this time in it, and now I accidentally cut it or ripped it and now it's useless. So I think that's going to be my main defining factor, is basically the cost of the material.
Good, good. Yeah, I love the concept that there are times where you'll start something, and like Catherine said, well, that's only $50, but I could make it for 20. $80 later, you have half a wing built, and you're beginning to rethink that decision. That happens to me occasionally, but I've been finding by going back to some of the outfits that the improvements are amazing. That my dive suit back there, the first helmet was a pretzel jar. I thought, how cool, a clear helmet that doesn't breathe, you can't hear through it, and I almost died, and I wore it to Comic-Con. I literally threw out everything out of the suit other than a few key pieces. And then I saw somebody on the web who was making that helmet. That helmet is all EVA foam. Okay, Dan showed you a bracer, and that's a real easy project in EVA foam. That was my first foam project. I was insane, but I had very good plans because somebody put plans, a video how to do it step by step. It turned out fabulous, and it's been one of the best pieces. And that's made me add all sorts of things to it, including my floating friend here, the octopus, and lights and noisemakers and everything else in it. So I'll generally make a lot of stuff, but a standard shirt, you know, I can pick that off the shelf for $10 and work it in and modify it. So I'll save my time and effort to make gadgets and neat things like that. Allison, I saved you for last because I know that you and Sean get into some of the more exciting stuff like 3D printers and things. So you might be able to make more things than the rest of us could.
We do. And yeah, I would say like we're even still a little new to 3D printing. So even every 3D print project we have, we're still learning, you know, all the different materials and which one's really strong, which one does well in the sun, which one shrinks a little bit after you print it. There's so many little things like that. Even us, we will buy a fair amount of just base materials. It can take a lot of effort just to get a base sometimes. So there's things like this vest I'm wearing was at one point just a basic vest. And we, you know, I turned that into an amalgamation of things over the last few years, of course. There's things like I have some cyberpunk goggles that I did, and you know, while I could make goggles feasibly, I could also just buy, you know, some ski goggles off of I think these were just Wish ski goggles, and then I can add, you know, some cool little lights inside there, and then I have like a really cool, you know, they were ski goggles, but nobody would think that they are anymore. It's really amazing how just a little bit of effort can take something store-bought and really make it your own. But yeah, you really have to balance that time, money, effort, and just, you know, if it makes a lot of sense to learn how to sew because you know you want to sew a lot of things in the future, then you should absolutely learn how to sew because that's going to save you a lot of time later. But really to get going, to get to the juicy bits that I like, it's really nice to just have my base, have my canvas all ready to go. And then I can just add all the fun stuff that I have from my junk pile, and just really make it what it's going to be.
We're going to have to get together and trade junk pile stuff one day. Just each bring a tub and see what we got.
Yes, junk trades. I'm all about junk trades any day.
Allison does a lot of wasteland. I do steampunk, and we found that we're kindred spirits in that we make things out of junk. Do people drop broken things off to you to salvage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I've had weird things given to me. Very weird things. I always appreciate the thought. But yeah, I certainly have another pile of just gifts that I don't have a plan for, but maybe one day. People always just see something strange and like, oh, Allison must want this, which is great.
Excellent, excellent. Um, yeah, we mentioned that balance between cheap, fast, and good. Sometimes buying a piece so you can spend more time on other things is definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. And so there she said it. Maybe you don't sew. How on earth do you make costumes then? And that gets into skills. So I think all of us have a lot of strengths and a few weaknesses. And tell us how you got around those. It's one of those things that, we can't do everything. When I started, I was a wonderful carpenter, and I couldn't sew at all. And so I was trading carpentry skills for sewing. And then they slowly started teaching me stuff. And then I learned a little bit about sewing, and then I could do some other things. And then, wow, we were on a panel one year that's, do you remember the guy who did EVA foam, who brought something from,
Mike.
Yeah, Mike. He had, it looked like a piece from Stargate. And somebody said, well, how delicate is that? He threw it the length of the hall and just rolled and bounced. It was EVA foam. You can get away with that. And so it was like, oh, I got to get me some of that. And I started on different projects and did the little ones and big ones. And yeah, you can see on the inside, this is floor mats. That's EVA floor mats. But it comes out, it makes just wonderful things. But to get to that point, you not only have to learn EVA, you have to learn faux painting. And so who do you go to? You go to the University of YouTube. You go to conventions and you find somebody who's an excellent painter, or you just go over and you ask somebody, hey, can you show me how you did that? So all of those are ways that you can build your skill set. The more skills you have, the cheaper it's going to be to build this stuff. Let me throw it to Catherine. Where do you need a little help when you get into some of your skills?
Well, I've learned a lot, Google is your friend, or DuckDuckGo for those who don't like Google. And the way I found out, when I first made my first Chewbacca costume, I thought that was like a type of fur. And I thought that's going to be really expensive to buy that fur. It's going to be super heavy, any kind of fur with that long of a nap. And I started Googling it. And that's when I found out it's not actually fur. What it is, you're making yourself. It is mesh fabric that you have latch hook row after row after row of hair onto it. And that's how they did it for Star Wars. For Star Wars, they use authentic hair. They use yak hair, which Lucasfilms actually has a farm in New Zealand, and those yaks are bred just to create hair for Star Wars project. But I use just cheap braiding hair that you can get at Sally's Beauty Supply or, at other online vendors. And I just learned how to do that. And latch hooking, it's from the 70s. Remember those pillows like, your grandma may have had with yarn and stuff and different designs? That's what it is. So I remember the night I discovered how to do that. It was January, I don't know the exact night, but it was January 2011, and it was for Comic-Con 2011. And I just found this, I went down this rabbit hole of links of finding out how to make a Wookiee costume. And I was just so happy. It was like 6:30 in the morning when I finally went to sleep, because I was like, I just found so much stuff. And I was just downloading, saving stuff. And when I came down to it, I remember working on him like 8 hours a day for 10 days straight. That was my job. I wasn't employed at the time, so I was able to do that. And we won Best Recreation that year. And that Chewbacca just got me started on a love for Wookiee costuming. So the internet is your friend.
We'll have pictures of some of those a little further along. Allison, I haven't seen a gap in your skills yet, but I know there's got to be one somewhere.
Well, I did mention sewing, and that is honestly still a gap for me. That's also probably why I start with a lot of base clothing, especially in the wasteland genre. I can badly hand sew things together. So I get the generic concept of sewing, and I can kind of poke holes and weave some string or floss through something, but it is by no means the embodiment of sewing integrity or anything like that. But, you know, at the same time, like having that limitation also forced me to creatively solve for, okay, what are some other ways that I can attach these things together without sewing? So we get into things like, maybe we start with things that are really simple, like safety pins. I think that's like the general go-to for a lot of people. But then like there's things like twist ties and zip ties. Believe it or not, those are actually really handy. I have a lot of costumes and costume bits and pieces that you just very easily can twist tie and zip tie together. Sure, you might have to cut them off later, but like it can really help hold things together. And of course, in the case of a costume malfunction, sometimes having those things around are really, really handy for repair reasons. I would say I'm not as good with the computer and Arduino wiring stuff, which my husband Sean is very good at. So I might sit there and struggle for a while trying to get my lights to light up, and he might be around to help me. So obviously it's really nice to have people around who happen to be able to fill your skill gaps, especially when they're in the house. So you could say, "Oh, sweetie, I can't get my lights to work." Okay, but maybe you can. So obviously that that might keep me from learning it, but at the same time, you know, between the two of you, or between all you and your friends, all of your skills combined, you could truly get through some really impressive builds, just leveraging all of that. I really do try to dabble a bit in something that makes me uncomfortable, though. I think part of crafting is to just try something you haven't done before. It may not go well, and that's okay too, but we have fun with it, and it's a positive experience even if you fail. There's always something to learn from. So maybe for me, next time we have this, maybe I'll be sewing. That'll be cool.
We'll invite you to the next sewing day for the costume build, right?
That's right.
Dan, what's your take on it?
Okay, so one thing that I have definitely learned throughout my journey in making Superman suits is to have a good understanding, or at least a basic understanding of the material you're using. I mean, with my very first suit, it was like this shiny pleatherish like material, and on the surface it looked great when I bought it from Yardage Town. But after putting it together and wearing it, I realized that it was the material, you know, was white on the bottom but blue on the top. But the material kept peeling as I wore it, especially on moving joints. So think like on the underarm, the elbow. So basically the blue would peel off and then it would just be all white on the bottom. I'm just like, can't use this. What is this? And then so I'd actually literally just like get Sharpies and just try to clean it all out. So that way at least it wouldn't be as noticeable. Another example would be during a different suit, I had bright red boots, but I wanted to darken them for one of my other suits. But when I spray painted them, I didn't realize that there was a special vinyl spray paint, so I just went and bought spray paint at Walmart, and the paint cracked instantly after I put them on. So, I mean, it looked good after I sprayed it. I was like, okay, this should probably adhere after several coats. But yeah, so I guess I've learned to do research about the materials that I use. But even now, with some of the materials, I tend to carry glue, scissors, some Velcro if I need it in case something falls apart. I'll at least have a temporary fix. Let's say I'm at a convention or a cosplay meetup or a charity event. At least then I can continue to wear it for the rest of the day. So super glue has been my friend.
Yes, it does. And even if you don't need that repair kit, somebody will that you'll run into during that day. And we all appreciate Sergeant Stitch, who's been on the panel before. She spends a lot of her conventions. She's got a text number you can text her, and she'll come running with hot glue guns and all the repair equipment in the world. She's
Battery
amazing.
operated hot glue gun. Very cool. I've been the recipient of her help. She's awesome.
Okay, that brings us to materials. When we say materials, we're starting with, you know, fabric, but then you get into things like makeup, the EVA foam we've touched on a little, even modeling clay, Then you get into some really expensive stuff, 3D printing, embroidery machines, laser cutters. There are actually a lot of makers out there that have this equipment in their garage. It's amazing. But let me toss this out to you. I know that, Dan, you started and we're talking about that you've been researching the different fabrics because obviously some are appropriate for your costumes and some aren't. So what kind of materials are your favorite to work with?
So I've been definitely wearing spandex and lycra bodysuits. They are surprisingly very breathable and very functional, so I can move around quite freely, and I don't get hot very easily, so that works out pretty well. As I mentioned earlier, I like to use urethane rubber or silicone for my emblems and for my belts. And then for the boots, I tend to go for vinyls or leather materials. The cape, I believe, is made of satin, at least for this particular suit. It has a very nice flow and a bit of a shine to it. So it cooperates quite nicely. So I just tend to think about like how is it going to function and how it's going to look in the picture. But I also take into account, is it going to last me a while? So I want materials that will endure for several wears. I tend to wear mine when I get a new suit, I tend to wear it for a little while I'm either brainstorming or working on another suit. And then after I wear it for quite a bit, then I will have the next suit ready and a bit of a progression there. But yeah, I guess bottom line is I would just recommend using a sturdy material that will last you for a good amount of time if you're into long-lasting suits.
Worth the money to pay for it too. Yep. Let's go to Catherine. Catherine gets into amazing stuff.
I've been dabbling a little bit with foam, EVA foam and things like that. I do make most of my costumes out of just, various fabrics. Cost is important to me, so I like to look out for the sales, but also the care for my costumes. I try not to use anything that's dry clean only. I like polyester blends because they're machine washable. But usually if it's got a blend, if it's like a poly cotton blend, it is still breathable, but it's washable. It won't get, the polycons have a nice hand to it. Because, so we're not talking about like the old school polyester with like the leisure suits. Like polyester has come a long way in the new millennium. And so I go for like things that have good wear and tear, that are sturdy, but not super expensive. But certain things are going to be more expensive. Like if you're making a wool suit, wool is expensive. So maybe if you can find an old wool suit and you can take it apart and restyle it, that's a good way. So you've got that good fabric, but you didn't have to spend a mint on it. So I like to use things that I know can be cared for well. And cost is something for me because I have a lot of cats, and cat food and litter doesn't grow on trees. So I have to, spend a good amount of my income on them. And I don't wear my costumes a lot like Dan does. So I don't want to spend like $400 on a costume because I'm going to wear it a lot. I'm like, I might only wear that costume twice because I like to always do something new. So I have to budget that. And, you look for deals on fabrics. Downtown LA is a great place. It's just, they have a plethora of, any kind of fabric you want. Dan and I just went there in December and got a ton of fabrics for a couple $100s. And I've got at least, I'd say at least 15 costumes, planned out of that fabric. So, and we got a fabric for at least 3 suits for him.
Yep.
So, just
good stuff.
Always looking for stuff.
Allison, how about non-fabric materials? What kind of stuff do you have kicking around your place that you're building things from?
Let's see. Well, one of my favorite things to work with is actually thermoplastics. So I'll use this as an example. I did this headdress a while ago, and I've got these nice quills on the back. And as we know, actual porcupine quills are very so that was out of the question. I was not going to use real quills, but I did use this stuff called Instamorph moldable plastic. They're these tiny little plastic beads, and you basically heat up some water in the microwave, really hot water, and put these beads in, and then they'll all just melt together. And then when you pull them out, you get, I don't know, I'd say like 5 or 10 minutes of sculpting time. So I would get these little blobs of plastic and just kind of pull them into these kind of quill shapes. And then after they dry, they're like a little bit bendable, very paintable, very easy to work with. You could literally make any shape you want. I could make these really long, really short, make them curl, anything I want. And the other cool thing is I actually had this sitting in front of my heater, and one of these actually melted because it has thermoplastic. But because of that, it was really easy to actually cut it. And then I was able to basically mend it again with the thermoplastic. So it's actually very forgiving. I think this is a very easy material to work with, non-toxic from what I understand. I wouldn't recommend eating it, but like when it comes to clays and stuff, that stuff gets on your hands, it gets really messy, and maybe some people don't like to get messy. So if you're kind of a clean freak, I highly recommend that. I also use a lot of macrame. Like back in the day, I used to make little macrame necklaces and stuff like that, and I actually like use it for a lot of costumes. So like I have like this little accent macrame piece. These are all just pieces of paracord actually, but I do little wrappings of macrame and hardware to kind of give it little decorative elements and things like that. It's really easy to just kind of learn how to weave something, and then you can just weave over anything you want. So like I have a lot of different strings and yarns and cords and snaps. Let's see, here's another one. Everyone has these in their house, right? So we have a lot of these little whatchamacallits?
Those zip ties?
Plastic zip ties. These are all
Okay.
zip ties. And as you can see, like I didn't really do much. They were just black to start with, but they too are also paintable. So, you know, from a distance, they read as nice kind of quills. They'll blow in the wind. And then on the bright side, like they're very bendable. They're very easy to store. If one gets bent, you can kind of heat it up again. I see a lot of these at Wasteland. People make like really beautiful like crowned tiaras. I've seen back pieces with them. I really, really love using zip ties for things. Highly underrated. And yeah, and again, just the macrame, really easy to just weave into things, make it look kind of tribal, make it look nomadic, make it look like it has a story to it. And then, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of just generic art materials from art school. I have acrylic paints, oil paints. I've got some foam clay, is really fun. I'll have probably some cyberpunk projects that use that. But foam clay is amazing. For people who want to actually sculpt something out of foam, it can seem very daunting to have to carve it out. So now we have the ability to actually take some clay and it dries and becomes foam, which is just like, it still kind of blows my mind that that's even possible. But what a great material that you just have to be able to seal, of course. I think the main problem with foam clay is it can keep drying out, which you don't want it to do. So you want it to dry and then seal it, and then hopefully it'll stay beautiful. But man, we have so many great options. And yeah, even all the thermoplastics, Worbla, Wonderflex, Sintra, there's just no shortage of things. I try to play with it all, to be honest. I think it's fun to always have some of it on hand, even if I don't use it.
Yeah, it's dangerous to let us makers go into Home Depot and look for stuff. But
yes, yes.
What are you using as your sealer?
So if it's just like an acrylic paint I'm trying to seal up, I just have, you know, your basic clear coat, crystal clear. Usually comes in some kind of matte finish. I'll usually opt for a matte finish. I don't usually do shiny finishes for the post-apocalypse. I like that. And Flex Bond as well is my other.
Yeah, I found something kind of nice. This is the spray-on rubberizing agent from Rust-Oleum changes the name every week. I think it's Leak Seal right now, but it comes in black, white, and now clear. I'm dying to do a project on that. So my iron case here is EVA foam again. So the whole thing is about a pound, and it's got a shoulder strap, and then you can, you know, put things into it. And this is my Flurkin box after we had inspired by the movies. Once we had Wonder Woman, and they came up with the Flurkin, and it was so dangerous. And so I ended up loving this so much that I did 5 different costumes based around it for Comic-Con one year,
Wow.
which was a lot of fun. But yeah, this is just pieces of the EVA foam floor mats, and then the thin craft foam, and my rivets are just thumbtacks. And then you put a coat of that rubberizing agent over it, a little bit of rub and buff, which is my only painting trick, and you get something wonderful. It's dramatic. It has storage in the back. You know, it's just kind of a wonderful piece like that. So the advantage too of this is I probably have, even with the toy inside, I know I don't have $20 in the whole prop. And that's a nice thing. That's a nice thing. And you can keep using it for other things. So maybe you don't sew or do things. There are certainly genres out there that you can do gadget work. You can start with basic clothing and add to it. You can find somebody who can do the parts you don't. These are all ways you can become a really good maker and do some really impressive cosplay with it. We're sharing. Okay. We've got a bunch of pictures now that I'm just going to throw this open to anybody to jump in with the comments on it. These are just people that we have seen. Some of them will be pictures of us. A lot of them are pictures of people who have just inspired the heck out of us. The Pixar couple there on the right are some friends that do just amazing pieces. So it's Wally and Eva. But what a great concept for something that would be hard to turn into a real costume. Catherine, you were talking about Ray in the picture on the left.
Yes,
you want to share that?
The tall Ray. She was actually one of the top 10 actresses who had like auditioned for the part of Ray back when The Force Awakens was being cast. And she did not get it. Daisy Ridley got it, but she was just, you know, a joy and a pleasure to talk to. That was at the 2016 Masquerade. And the one in the middle, that's my friend Maya, who was part of my costuming group. We did a mashup group that year. It was a mashup of Bob's Burgers, Star Wars, and Allison, you were in that group, the one with the Rick and Morty? Yes, Rick and Morty. And so we did have, it was Louise from Bob's Burgers as Ray, and so we had like these huge heads, like these mask heads. So like she looked just like Louise from the Bob's Burgers, but I made the Ray costume for her, and I thought it was really cool because even though she is not like obvious, the tall girl, she has the ideal body of, or like the actress who is Ray. She could have been the actress who portrayed Ray. You can see it on a totally different body type, and it totally works for Maya. She is an adorable little Ray. So I like that you can see two totally different body types pulling off basically the same costume and making it work. So, and that was a fun costume to make because all of her Maya's costume, I got like fabric and I tea stained it. I was like saving the old coffee grounds at work and just made a huge coffee and tea dye to make to just really make those costumes that give it that authentic look. And that's a Wastelander trick that I picked up. So I think it's kind of neat that you can have different people portraying the same character and pulling it off perfectly.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, I'm going to dump it right back to you with this is Chewy's Angels.
Chewy's Angels below. That was our first year. That was because I can always tell because we got the shorter lavender angel. That was Anna. And again, I like that. Those costumes are very special to me because when I made my first Chewbacca costume, I was enjoying it so much that I wanted to make a girl Wookiee costume. So I did the following year in 2012, I made my Lady Chewie costume. And then a couple years later, I came up with this idea of doing pastel Wookiees, and they were going to be Chewy's Angels like Charlie's Angels. And I wasn't able to pull it off in 2014 like I'd hoped because I was fostering a million cats that summer. But we made it happen in 2015, and it's always really fun. You can tell they're very glam. They're very, very cute and gorgeous with our glittered boots and our shiny pearlized bowcasters with glitter on the ends, and just I just think it's super cute. It's like it's a Wookiee, but it's sexy. So I like cute, sexy costumes, and this is really neat. You know, not everybody likes Chewie's Angels, but I'd say the vast majority do. And I'm gonna keep on making sexy Wookiee costumes.
Stuff. Good stuff. Dan, tell us about the DC Heroes group you've got there.
Okay, so what I've been doing for the past, well, actually just about a week ago, I hosted a cosplay gathering over at Presidio Park in San Diego. I just had this, just had the feeling that it's been over a year since people have been able to come together and meet up and hang out. And I figured it's also been that long since we've been able to cosplay together. I mean, especially with the restrictions and all. So I decided that this would be a good opportunity now that things are lifted outdoors for us to come together, hang out, have a good time, and do things like they were pre-lockdown. I'm planning on doing, you know, one each month for the next few months. I got another one planned on the way for this month, and one in July and August. After that, we'll see. I mean, everybody there said they had a good time. You know, I got positive reports back, and people really liked our images as well. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing if you can get a group together, like those are all DC heroes, and the other picture is my Victorian Batman. That if you get one person, it's an interesting costume. If you get 2 or 3, be prepared to stay there for a while because people will come out of the woodwork to take pictures, and it gets real exciting as the time goes on to have some groups like that.
I love mashups, and that's our Bob's Burgers Star Wars Rick and Morty mashup. Allison was Finn. She was Finn, who was also Tina.
And Tina.
And I'm Princess. Gosh, what's the mom's name on Bob's Burgers? I can't think of it right now. But that's me in the background. Is Princess Leia, and the mom. And Bob was just Bob.
Bob's always Bob.
Sean was the little boy.
The little brother? Who's the little brother?
The brother, yeah.
I don't remember any of their names.
Gene, who was also, he was Kylo Gene. Not Kylo Ren, Kylo Gene. And he had his cross saber keyboard.
Mashups are fun. You get to break all the rules.
Yeah, and then we had a little Rick and Morty.
I love the Wonder Woman as a showgirl. I think that's just a fabulous outfit.
Oh, that was a fantastic mashup. I love that.
It's impressive too when you've got a nice outfit and you go rushing up and go all fanboy on somebody else, and they'll lose it. They'll lose it all the time. And that you see that an awful lot, that people who do really good work recognize really good work, and your compliments carry a lot of weight at that point. Star Wars bit me big time because I was able to make that outfit, the original Obi-Wan, and given the white that was going in my beard, I thought that was a more appropriate outfit. But it started me into a lot of other things. But you can also get into your mashups, because I'm there with Dude Vader, who's the steampunk Darth Vader. And originally his outfit was all toys. You can see that his shoulder epaulets are still the wings off of a TIE fighter, and they were all toy pieces, which was amazing. Yeah. But he now has access to a 3D printer, and he is banging out new elements for every event. It's just amazing. And then you've got the people who the Mandalorian mercs certainly would not endorse, but Lounge Lizard Boba Fett, and a lot of people. It's a very distinctive, interesting costume that people love, but boy, is that more comfortable to wear than all of that armor. So it's a nice trade-off, and it just shows what you can do by kind of thinking outside the lines and costuming that way. Good stuff.
Disco Stormtrooper is kind of fun too.
Dan, I'm waiting for you to come up with a Star Wars crossover on Superman. I think you could do a better job than this, guys.
He's gonna do it. We're working on that.
Yep, I gotta. It's definitely on my list. I gotta get a Jedi Superman on there. So multiple people have asked for it as well. They're just like, when are you gonna do it? So you come to Star Wars stuff. You can do Jedi Superman, and I'm just like, I definitely want to. I still have to come up with a good design. I haven't really thought of exactly what I want yet, but I do have some things floating around. So
Yeah.
definitely stay tuned for that. I do want to make one at some point.
We're going to hold you to that. Definitely do that.
Next year. And that sexy Cyclops showgirl is Amanda Lynn Schaefer, who is just an adorable and just beautiful cosplayer. And I thought that was just one of the coolest things I ever saw. You know, she wears it beautifully, and that's just so creative. You know, the X-Men, but showgirls. That's awesome. I thought that was fantastic. And then that was us. There was my two friends, Ashley and Jackie, who are two Chewie's angels. That's what they look like without the mask. It was Belle as a Captain America dancer. I was Ariel, Captain America dancer, and Ashley was Cinderella, Captain America. So we were crossover with Disney and Marvel, and that was before Disney merged with Marvel. So we were ahead of our time.
Seasonal mashups. I love the Santa and Wonder Woman. I still just can't get over that. That's fabulous.
It's putting a Christmas spin on it, and that was Dan's idea to do that. He found that Superman idea, and then I decided to do a Christmas Wonder Woman too. So that was for our Sci-Fi Coalition group. That was for volunteers.
You know,
pretty cute too.
Sometimes you stick with the colors. That's the distinctive thing. Other times, you know, the Superman S is so distinctive that you can have a lot of fun with that. But you've got all the key elements of the Wonder Woman. You basically have just changed the colors, but it just screams Christmas as a result. So that is wonderful.
From gold to white and blue to green. So it was all Christmas colors, but it was the same. Yeah, it was the same design, just Christmas colors.
Exactly. That's the beauty of using something so iconic that you can just mash it up, or you can switch it to like a Christmas theme, or if you want to do a summer theme, and as long as you got a few key elements in there, it'll work. People will recognize it instantly. A nice touch. And that suit that I'm wearing there is also inspired by a comic. So Superman actually did wear that at one point. And while delivering presents to children around the world, posing as Santa Claus.
Very cool.
Comic.
Gender bending. I don't know if Doctor Who started it, because that was one of the first places I would see women dressed in the Doctor Who outfits. And now, yay, we've got a real woman as Doctor Who. So, but it's spread to a lot of different genres now. And these are some great examples.
Yeah, the Gender Bent Justice League, that was the first time. They were like the ones who kind of like took it big time mainstream. And that was, I think they first came out WonderCon, or sorry, Comic-Con 2011. And then that was I took that picture at WonderCon 2012. And it was just blew me away, because I love how they recreated it. I thought it was like perfect. I love, Superwoman was my favorite. Batwoman was good too, but Superwoman, I mean, Kit Quinn looks just amazing as Superwoman. The way she made it her own design, but still kept to the Superman aesthetic, was just fantastic, I thought.
Very well, nicely done. Catherine and I get into this discussion every year because Catherine does spectacular masquerade work, and I absolutely refuse. I want to be comfortable and wander around the halls. And that's kind of the differences here, that we've got the spectacular pair there from Coco, yeah, I was blanking on the name, where that's wonderfully recognizable but comfortable, easy to go. A lot of that could be, you know, off the rack stuff you've adapted, you've played with. But the one in the middle is an obscure little character from one of the Star Wars movies. And, you know, the head is about halfway down of the character, but of course the person looking out through the base of that chair. And that's something that would be difficult to wander around Comic-Con's convention floor on. It's something you'd more expect to see in a masquerade. but oh, it's just a fabulous, fabulous piece like that. Was the last one a masquerade?
Yeah, she wasn't. She was in the WonderCon masquerade. That's Anis Dame Fatal. That was the 2012 WonderCon masquerade. And then she can, but that's like a masquerade costume that is comfortable. She could walk around in no problem. The next two pictures are two masquerade costumes that you cannot walk around in. No problem. You cannot walk around really in them at all. That's why they've only been worn once at the masquerade. That was my 2011 WonderCon Best Original Design, and then the 2012 WonderCon She Spawn, which was, I got Best Workmanship for that, which is pretty cool.
Very cool. Have you ever tried substantial body makeup for a whole day?
No, that's why that's a bodysuit.
Yeah. Okay. That's something we'll see people. Whenever I see the Klingons, and I think you're wearing those appliances all day long. And yeah, it's you need to think about that. The weight, if you're covering all your skin with makeup like that, that has its own problems and visibility, and the list goes on and on. So yeah, as you plan these, think about where you're going to wear and what you're going to do. You can make it 30 feet across the stage for masquerade and survive, but all day long wandering the halls can be a little tougher when we do that. Sometimes it's just great ideas. I think we first saw the Edna with baby Jack literally the year the movie was out. That may have actually, I bet they actually had to work from the publicity trailers and things up front, but so effective yet comfortable, pretty easy to do. Wonderful stuff. Who's with Chewbacca in the middle one?
That's Lady Chewie. That's
What?
the original Lady Chewie. And that was at Balboa Park.
Well, that's kind of nice there too, because you have substitute clothing for some of the fursuit, making it a little easier too, which is always smart. I love the tattoo shirt. That's a brilliant way of doing a costume like that, so you don't have to stand there while somebody's applying all that. Or I have seen people do very effective tattoos with Sharpies, but that's a lot of Sharpie work for something that big. So that's always lovely to see people jump on these things. Who can talk about Andy Holt?
I think you know him probably best, but he recently joined our science fiction, sci-fi coalition club down here in San Diego. He's from Orange County, and he's a super cool guy. And we were talking to him at last week's photo shoot, and I think he says he's got 12 sets of various lengths of wings, but those are his world record holding wings. He's
The biggest ones are Guinness Book, is over 12 feet. And then, of course, if you really have the commitment, there's Bumblebee. And that one is, we know the maker on that one too. And he started out really not knowing how to do any of the work, got in with a group that made similar suits, and they really helped him all the way through it. And he'll show up for a lot of events.
Yeah, Vince has a couple different versions. That's his original Bumblebee. His breast cancer awareness Bumblebee is all pink, and it's pretty awesome.
Yep, it's good stuff. Okay, so we mentioned the difference between the hall costumes and the masquerade. Comfort is always big. It's nice to have storage. Can you sit and stand? Can you use the bathroom in the costume? That's what I was quizzing Super Dan on, as to whether he has worked out the escape hatch in the bodysuits, or whether you have to go in there and pretty much peel out of the entire suit in order to use the bathroom. That's always one of those concerns. And do you need handlers? And I've done a couple of projects, even the dive suit. It's nice to have somebody coming along with me because I have very limited vision in that. And it can be a little exciting to work your way through. And we've seen people who have done, Ryan Wells will do the most insane outfits you've ever seen, and he needs a whole team working with him all the time.
He always has a handler or four.
Yeah, that's the commitment. Another good group at WonderCon. WonderCon, they always do the photo shoots, and sometimes they have a theme and sometimes they don't. That one could be DC related mashups, because we can see the Justice League of their own, or a few of the elements, and you've got a lot of good folks in that. The amazing thing is they didn't come as a group. you know, everybody just gets together, and it's amazing how well they work on some of those.
I can, as somebody who has been in a few photo shoots like that, where they gather several people of the same like genre, let's say DC or Marvel or Star Wars, what they, at least the way I hear about them is through Facebook. Facebook was a good way, as they have an organizer every year coordinating these shoots, these photo shoots. And he's like ahead of time, basically he posts this stuff early to make sure that everybody knows, okay, this is exactly where we're meeting. This is exactly what time we're meeting. And then he has this, I forget his name, but it's been the same guy for the past several years. And he has this structure of like, not only does he have everyone get together, but then he'll be like, okay, let's say for DC, for example, it's like, okay, everybody who is anything Superman related, stay on, everybody else leave. And then we just take pictures of them, and then the Batman themed, Wonder Woman themed, and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, at least that's how I have seen it coordinated, is just through social media and then just keeping on top of it.
The photographers appreciate that as well, because you will draw 5 times as many photographers if it's well posted out there and they can see it. And we've seen Star Wars groups that literally number in the hundreds. Steampunk has gotten together at noon at Comic-Con on Saturday for the last at least 10 years. And the number of photographers that come out for that is real impressive, because we'll get close to 100 Steampunks. So it's a fun way of doing this. Fun way of doing it. Okay, a few more. I don't think any of us know exactly which robot that is. We all love it. And you will run into that if you do an obscure character. People will love it, even if they don't know what it is. The people who do know what it is melt down in front of you. Just absolutely go crazy. And sometimes doing an obscure character is fun for that. And you can always put your own twist on things. Love that shield. And, you know, there are the brown coats. So you've got a lot of Firefly.
Firefly.
Yep. We almost call them reenactors because they have that same kind of fervor.
I can add that I know, for example, I sometimes wear Superman suits from more obscure comics, or even from the TV series Smallville. And I kind of just see like, okay, how many people will get this actual reference? It's like, will people understand this is from Smallville, or if they'll get that Superman related, and then and so on and so forth. So when people really get it, it's like, awesome. Not only are they a Superman fan, but they know this very niche Superman medium, exactly, right? So it's a nice feeling. I can attest to that.
It's fun groups on it. Since we were talking about groups, you can join groups even as a rookie cosplayer, and they will help you come up with spectacular outfits. The Star Wars, if you want to be Stormtrooper, there's the 501st. There is also, what's the San Diego? I know there's like the Star Wars Rebel Alliance.
Rebel Legion?
Rebel Legion.
Rebel Legion, yeah.
There's a Mandalorian Mercs. There is a costume guild locally in San Diego that does a lot of historical, but has a lot of us who have one foot in that genre and one foot in others. Reenactor groups for every historical era you can think of are out there. And even if you don't join them, a lot of times they'll go, oh, we've got this great Facebook page or this great blog, or these guys are the ones that do all the work. And you'll get free patterns and you'll get advice and you'll just get wonderful things out of them. Now, they may hold you to a little higher standard if you join them. The 501st, the Mandalorians, you have to do things with the right materials. It basically has to be screen ready. But if you see Disney Gallery, which was a kind of a making of the Mandalorian that's on Disney Plus, they got like 30 stormtroopers from the 501st to show up, not knowing what they were there for. And they were actually filmed as part of one of the episodes, and they lost their minds. It was just fabulous, fabulous. So they can be definitely a great help, a great assistance if you want to join them. Absolutely go for it. You may find they're a little too hardcore, shake hands with them, go wandering off. Just, do what is comfortable for you. Now, some of them also do a lot of good works. Dan, I know that you are in groups that go and do charitable visits quite often. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So I am a part of a few charity organizations. The one pictured here is the Sci-Fi Coalition located in San Diego, and they tend to go throughout the year, just various different events. This one in particular was for the USO. We also do charity events for, let's say, like hospital visits, run, what do you call it, 5K runs, like superhero themed runs. We've been a part of those in the past as well. And basically what we do is we mingle with folks, we take pictures with them, basically just provide entertainment for families and young ones throughout the time that we're requested. And it's a good time. And we also, chat with each other as well, catch up with one another while we are helping other people. So it's a fun time all around. I really enjoy the idea of being able to do what I love and helping people at the same time. And the organizers have always been extremely appreciative of our services, and in return I just get the satisfaction of being able to make a difference and providing joy in the lives of these families and kids, even if it's just for a moment. It's always worth it.
Fabulous, fabulous. So yeah, we want you to go out there and find your tribe. When you go out to big events in costume, Comic-Con may have 0.5% of the attendees in costume, but we're always hanging out together. We always, I want to go and see what someone else is wearing, and there's wonderful things all over there. So if you go to the events, you go to group events like the photo shoots that Super Dan was talking about. Certainly, if the part of any of the groups, they will frequently have events and reasons to go out, and sometimes just photographers will go, hey, I want to get pictures of people, I'll be in this location this time, and check them out. But they can really be a fun time to go down there with a group and have a good time. But this is my favorite costuming family in the world. That I run into them at Comic-Con each year. Each year it's a different outfit with the 5-piece family, and they're just fabulous. Just fabulous. It isn't Comic-Con until I found them. Okay, so going out, we're just going to remind you that the important thing about cosplay is just have fun.
Yep.
Okay, now we've talked about, we go to Comic-Con and we go to these, little anime conventions and whatnot. I don't see a lot of the Wasteland folks at Comic-Con. Where do you end up going to play Wasteland, Allison?
So actually we do go to Comic-Con. There's not a whole lot of us. We try to meet in the little gas lamp area. So
That's from the gas lamp.
photo
That's
down
from our
there
Wasteland, yeah.
on the bottom right is in the gas lamp. So I don't know, I would say maybe there's around 50, maybe less than 50 Wastelanders that show up around San Diego, but Wasteland itself takes place in California City, which is a bit more north, a little further out. We of course go for that event. I've seen a few photo shoots held at like Salt and Sea. I know it's a really popular one. Sometimes they'll go out to the dunes. We don't have a one spot kind of thing, but I know we tried to get like some social events going. We had some Wastelanders kind of invade some bars. It's definitely like really good during Halloween. I would say people are a little bit more receptive to the Wasteland look. I think during the pandemic, it might have been a little too much to maybe, go into the store, fresh coronavirus in your Wasteland gear. I don't think people were quite ready for that. So I do feel like with Wasteland, there's a time and a place for it. But we have a lot of fun. It's really easy to kind of insert yourself anywhere, and the apocalypse could just appear anywhere. Here's a whole bunch of marauders. You never know what's gonna happen. We're all just a bunch of fun-loving nerds. Honestly, we I think there's a lot of Wastelanders who are also kind of into LARPing and kind of like the medieval scene. So I think there's a lot of just cross interest that, you know, maybe you see some Wastelanders at the Steampunk events, or, you know, obviously Comic-Con is another big one. It's just people who like to dress up in costume and play somebody else. Yeah.
That's the important thing. You dress up, you enjoy it. That's what it's all about.
That's right.
So I'd like to thank all of you for being here, all my panelists for being here again this year, and Catherine for organizing the event. And then for all of you who are watching this, we love it. We love the fact we can reach out to all the Comic-Con interested people. And we hope you've enjoyed this and hope you've found some tips that'll help you out. So have a wonderful year cosplaying, and hopefully we'll see you in person next year. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.